Hey guys, I'm Connor Petzold. I'm a product engineer here at Prismatic. Oh, shit. I was in front of my presentation.
I'll drive for you.
No, I want to drive.
Okay.
He's always trying to take over the driver's seat. All right, so I'm going to hopefully briefly talk about DOMI. Yeah, I'll make that huge. Is that good enough? So DOMI is like Arya said, our first ClojureScript open source library. It's a pretty simple, but we think awesome DOM library. It's for DOM manipulation, templating, and event listening, and maybe a couple other things, hopefully, in the future. The first kind of basic thing you do is selection. So the important thing to note here is that DOM nodes are selected using macros, and the other kind of philosophical thing is that we don't actually want to wrap the DOM nodes that are returned in just arbitrary objects, like something like jQuery would do, and that's more so that you don't have to unpackage nodes whenever you select them. So we have these nice macro selectors that hopefully make things faster as well, or they do make things faster.
Told by how much?
I don't remember exactly the numbers. But yeah, it essentially takes your keyword or your vector, your string, and converts it to one of the native selectors. The other aspect, which was mostly inspired by jQuery and is mostly like a one-to-one function map, is DOM manipulation. These are just basically the basic DOM manipulation functions you'd expect. They all take in DOM nodes from the selectors as their first argument, which is really nice to facilitate closure threading. Yes, we love the arrow macro and the double arrow. So we use that all over the place in our ClojureScript code, and also the node lists returned from the multi-selections are seekable, so you can easily just loop over them or map over them, whatever you want to do. The third aspect is templating. I'm not really going to talk about events because it's just like a listen. That's not too important. The syntax for our templating, our client-side templating, is based on Hiccup. I'm sure you guys have. How many of you are familiar with Hiccup, HTML stuff? So yeah, we just basically utilize that. It's essentially the same. There's some nice syntax things. I don't know if you can do this in Hiccup now, but you don't have to define divs. You can just do this the classic CSS style stuff. And these are also macros. So if you don't have, if you just have a lot of constant templates that you want to compile, it's pretty nice because it compiles just right down to raw JavaScript, setting class names and doing everything else you'd expect. And then it does fall back to runtime functions if it can't determine how to compile. And you can do things like nesting styles as maps. So everything you'd expect there. And we have the classic def syntactic sugar that just wraps it in a function. And then the last aspect, which I wanted to talk about, which it's still under development, we haven't actually open sourced it yet, is our live templating or live binding stuff. And this is kind of in the same vein of Angular, or if you guys have seen WebFui or Singled, which is the library behind C2 that does the DOM update stuff. So it's pretty nice. You can essentially define your application in terms of state. You just have an atom that wraps some app. And then like Arya said, we actually use, if you look at the view macro here, we're actually using func style binding. So this counter view will take in your ref to a map, and essentially we'll add watchers on any of the keyword bindings that you specify in your like binding, and then if any of those state paths change, it will reevaluate, or it'll just update what's necessary to make that template update. And what's nice about this is we don't actually have to traverse or do any kind of diffs or state patches on DOM. It's just directly modifying what it needs to do on the DOM, which we think should hopefully make it faster, but we have yet to do a lot of performance analysis on that. So yeah, here's a quick example, say you have to do state with text and done, you pass it in, and you just bind different attributes to your state, and then it compiles down to basically add watch, a bunch of watchers. We have these kind of nice state ignore the MVC for now, but we have these nice state methods which basically let you watch at a certain nesting level of an atom. And so if any of those change, they directly call dummy methods like setAttribute or replace and basically update live. So in conclusion, yeah, it's basically dummy. We're open to pull requests and feedback, so if you guys want to help us out, that'd be great. Oh yeah, you guys have any questions?
Do your front-end designer people deal with this? I mean, like, what do they, where's the interface then?
So we have kind of a funny interaction with design. We don't do a lot of, they don't do a lot of actually coding and enclosure. I know the classic argument for using other libraries is that you want your designers to be able to work in HTML. We haven't really found the need for that yet. We work really closely with our designers, so anytime there's any changes, we just make them with them. But is that what you're trying to get at? Yeah, in the future we'd like to teach them. I think they're definitely able to dive into hiccup style stuff and modify colors or whatever. There's also Garden is a CSS compiler similar to hiccup, which is cool.